Hi there, it's Peter here. You're watching the GreenSock 101 free online course for front-end developers and designers, where you can learn a lot about GreenSock API and web animations in 60 minutes. In this video, you'll learn how to use the TweenMax to animate the most common properties and attributes of elements. We'll learn how to create a simple 3D animation and also how to connect multiple timelines. And the final demo, we'll need to speed up through the HTML and CSS so I can deliver the promise of 1 hour with GreenSock. So in the HTML, we've got two boxes. One is HTML box and one is SVG box. They all look the same. The CSS for the HTML matches the CSS or the attributes of the SVG. So the width and height 200 pixels, and then there is a rectangle as a background and a circle in the middle. For the CSS, we've got box HTML, width and height 200 pixels, text in the middle, and the dot 40 by 40 with a border radius 100% makes the dot in the middle. And if we review it in a browser, we see two divs or two boxes on the page. We'll go back to the CSS and we'll enable the position absolute and top left 0 on our both boxes, so they appear behind each other. And now we'll start animating it using GreenSock. In this demo, we'll use the TweenMax for the first time. So instead of using Timeline Max or Timeline Lite or Tween Lite, we'll use the TweenMax. And TweenMax is the king of the GSAP animation platform. It consists of the CSS plugin, Round Props plugin, Bezier, Attribute, eSpec, Directional Rotation plugin, and Tweenline, Timeline Lite, and Timeline Max. Okay, so it combines them all together, so we don't need to include any other plugins with it. In the JavaScript file, I've already selected all the elements we want to animate. We're pausing the timeline by default, and then we have two buttons. One button which plays it, and the previous button will reverse it later on. Okay, so for now we'll trigger in simple two tweens of the box HTML and box SVG, and they go to X and Y 100%. Okay, in the browser, we should see the boxes going 200 pixels to the right and bottom. That's the X and Y 100%. Okay, if we define it as 100, that would move it 100 pixels instead of 100%. Okay, so if you're using pixels, if you're not using the quotes, GreenSock assumes it's pixels, and 100% is the width and height of the containers. We'll change back to 100% on both tweens. And at the end, we'll add a pause. Okay, so we add pause very simply just by adding dot add pause. That will pause the timeline, and we'll use the button next to go to the next section. We'll add two more tweens. For both boxes, this time we're animating the left and top to 50%. Let's see where that's gonna move our boxes now. As you can see, they're animating 50% of the whole viewport size, but they are still offset by the 100%, the initial tween. Okay, so the matrix is still remembering the first transform and then animating in the left and top 50% of the viewport size. Now let's try to center the HTML box and move the dot to the top left corner. That would be done in the JavaScript by animating the box and the dot. So we're animating the HTML dot and box. The box goes to left 50%, top 50%, and at the same time we're animating the X and Y to minus 50%, and the dot goes to simple left and top 0. Now what if we try to duplicate this and try the same thing on the SVG elements? So instead of the box HTML, we'll animate box SVG, and the dot is SVG dot. Let's see what would happen in the browser. The box goes to the right position, but as you can see, the dot didn't move at all. And that is because we're animating the left and top offset of the dot, but instead of, we need to animate the CX and CY attributes. So we'll delete these two and we'll replace it by the attribute CX and CY like this. So we're animating attribute CX, CY to 0. And that should move the dot to the right spot. Nicely done. Now we want to rotate the HTML box to the 90 degrees to the right and rotate it using the anchor point in the bottom right. So let's go back to JavaScript and add the tween that will rotate the HTML box. HTML box rotation is how we rotate HTML elements. Rotation 90 degrees or 90. And we're setting also the transform origin to 100% to make sure it rotates using the bottom right as the anchor point. Similar approach would work on the SVG. So let's duplicate this and change the element to be box SVG, and the rotation should work both the same on the div and the SVG. Here is the HTML box rotating. As you can see, the SVG is chopped off because the coordinates of the circle are outside of the viewport of the SVG. Okay, HTML elements, they overlap each other unless they are outside of the viewport or unless they have an overflow hidden. The same in SVG elements. Make sure that if you've got situation like this, that you have the size of the SVG a little bit bigger, so you don't have the similar issue. And the rotation of the SVG, as you can see, works similar way. Okay, now let's move the HTML box and center it on the page so it touches the line from the right side, and then we'll move the SVG right next to it. We'll firstly do the HTML box by using the xPercent, setting the xPercent to -100 and rotation to 0. Okay, so xPercent is another way how you can animate things on the horizontal axis, and -100 means that it will take the box and transform it using the matrix, CSS matrix, 100% to the left. Okay, this is very important that you master the difference between left x and xPercent. And I've got also another video where I'm explaining how all these comes together, which I will link to it under the video or somewhere on the screen here as well. Okay, mastering these three is really key to animate your elements on the page flawlessly without headaches. Now if we add the tween for the SVG box, and we'll reset the X offset to 0%, rotation to 0 as well, we should see the two boxes sitting next to each other. Nice, you got them both sitting next to each other. Now we'll animate the dots back into the middle. The HTML dot will be animating left and top, and with the SVG dot we need to animate the attribute CX and CY back to the HTML CX and CY, the original position. Okay. Now we rotate both boxes around the middle point 720 degrees. That will be a simple tween where we're combining both elements in the square brackets, box SVG and box HTML, and rotation is 720 degrees, so we don't have to include the degrees, it's automatically assumed by GreenSock, and we're setting the transform origin to be the middle of the boxes. And now we'll take both boxes and we'll rotate them using the 3D transforms, firstly by 180 degrees and then all the way back to the starting position, another 180 degrees. Okay, we'll use 3D transform for this. And first thing we'll need to do, we'll need to update the CSS, and we'll need to enable the perspective on the parent container. Okay, so I've got it already written here. We're setting position absolute and perspective 600 pixels with width and height 100% to the perspective container, which is the parent container for both of our boxes. Okay, so this one now has the perspective 600 pixels, and that is a crucial part for the CSS 3D transform to happen. And the tweens will be box HTML will rotate along the x-axis to -180, and the transform origin is set the middle, so it will flip around the middle of the box, and the SVG will flip along the y-axis. The transform origin is set to the right center. It means it will flip around the right edge. And after the last pause, we'll add the final 2 tweens, which will complete the rotation into 360. So the boxes flip around all the way to the starting position just by completing it, going into or animating the rotation X to -360 and rotation Y to -360. Now let's review the whole timeline in the browser. This video wraps up the GreenSock 101 online course. I hope you've learned a lot about GreenSock API and web animations. And if you want to learn even more about GreenSock, join me in the GreenSock workshop, where you can learn how to build 3 interactive projects from start to finish. You'll be able to download the starting files and follow me step by step and create these 3 projects on your own. If you have any questions or feedback related to this course, please leave them under the video. I would love to hear from you. Like, share and subscribe to the channel for more videos like this. Thanks for watching and I'll see you in my next videos. Bye.